You ever notice that one person who never texts back right away, and somehow everyone is obsessed with thee, or that co-worker who says no without explaining himself, and the whole office respects him more than the boss? There is something going on there, and it is not luck, it is not attitude, it is something much deeper than that. Here is the truth. Nobody talks about. People do not respect what they can have any time they want. Think about it. What do you chase the most? Things that feel out of reach, things you're not sure you can have, things that feel rare. That is human nature, and the Stoics understood this. Thousands of years ago today, we are going to break down 7 habits of people who command respect, not by demanding it, but by being someone that others simply cannot control, and when you understand this, your whole life changes. Habit number 1. Stop being so available all the time. Let me ask you something real quick. When is the last time you replied to a text within 30 seconds or stayed late at work when nobody asked you to, or said yes to something before even thinking about it? Look, most of us were taught that being helpful is good, being responsive is professional, being there for people is what makes you a good friend, a good partner, a good employee, and yeah, there is truth in that, but here is where it flips on you. When you are available every single second of every single day, people stop valuing your time because it costs them nothing. Think about that for a second. What costs nothing gets treated like it is worth nothing. You ever had a buddy who was always free, always down for whatever, no plans, no nothing, just sitting there waiting, and every time you hit him up, he drops everything for you? Sounds loyal, right? Sounds like a great friend, but honestly, be real with yourself. Did you respect him more, or did you kind of take him for granted? Most people, if they are being honest, would say, yeah, I took him for granted. Now think about that other person, the one who is actually doing something with their life, who has their own schedule, their own goals, their own routines. You text them, and you actually wonder, will they reply? And when they do, it feels like something, it actually means something, that is the difference, not because they are playing games, but because their time is genuinely occupied with things that matter to them. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said something that hits different here. He said, confine yourself to the present. Meant be fully in what you are doing. Do not be on standby for the world. Be present in your own life. When you live like that, you naturally become less available, not because you are trying to be, but because you are actually living the psychology. Behind availability, here is the science behind it, and it is wild. Psychologists call it the scarcity principle. When something is rare, we assign it more value automatically, without even thinking. It is why limited edition sneakers sell out in seconds. It is why a restaurant with a 2-month wait list feels more special than the one with empty tables every night, same food sometimes. But the scarcity changes how we perceive the value. Now apply that to you, when you are everywhere all the time, answering every call, responding to every message, saying yes to every request. You are telling the world, I have nothing else going on. I am wide open. I am fully available for whatever you need. And people, even if they love you, start to unconsciously put you in the low priority category. But when you are genuinely busy, when you have your own thing going on, when you do not pick up every single time, something shifts in how people see you. They start thinking, wow, this person has got a lot going on. They must be doing something important. I should probably make this count when I do get their time. That's right. There is respect, and you did not beg for it. You just stopped giving yourself away for free. What happens when you are always available at work? Let me bring this into the workplace, because this is where I see it mess people up the most. There is always that one person at the office who stays late every single night, takes every project, volunteers for everything, never says no, never pushes back. And everyone loves that person on the surface. But do they get promoted? Do they get the big opportunities? Do people think of them as the leader? Usually not, because they have trained their co-workers and their boss to see them as someone who is always There. So they will always be there. There is no urgency to value them, because they are not going anywhere. You can always count on them, which also means you can always underestimate them. Now think about the person who is selective, who pushes back. Sometimes who says, "Hey, I am at capacity right now. Can we talk about priorities?" That person, even if it is a little uncomfortable in the moment, gets treated differently because their availability is not guaranteed. And that uncertainty makes people take them seriously. Habit number 2. Master the art of not reacting right away. All right, so we talked about availability. Now let me take you deeper. One of the most powerful things a person can do is simply not react like immediately. We live in a world where everything is instant replies, instant likes, instant reactions, instant opinions, and everyone is just reacting all day long to everything that happens to them. Someone says something at work, boom, they fire back. Someone sends a disrespectful text, boom, they respond within a minute. Someone posts something on social media. Boom, 50 people pile on within the hour. And here is the thing: when you react instantly to everything, you hand over your power to whoever triggered you. The Stoics called this the gap between stimulus and response. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic teachers who ever lived, started out as a slave, literally owned by another person. And yet he was one of the freest people mentally who ever walked this earth, and his whole teaching was about this one idea: things do not disturb you. You disturb yourself by how you respond to things. That gap between what happens to you and how you respond is where your power lives. Most people have zero gap. Something happens. They react like a machine, like a pinball getting knocked around by whatever hits them. But the person who pauses, who takes a breath, who lets a moment pass before responding, that person is terrifying to deal with in the best possible way, because you cannot read them, you cannot control them, you cannot push their buttons on your timeline. The pause in real life. Let me give you some real situations where the pause changes everything. You are at a family dinner. Your uncle says something totally out of pocket, probably about your life choices or your job or whatever it is. Now, most people either explode or they go quiet and stew. But the person who has mastered the pause just looks at him, takes a slow breath, maybe even smiles a little and says, "That is interesting," and moves on to explosion. No drama, no proving a point, just calm. And that calm freaks people out in a good way, because they expected a reaction. They were ready for a fight or for you to get upset, and you gave them nothing. Nothing is incredibly powerful. Here is another one. Someone at work sends you an aggressive email. Maybe your boss comes at you sideways, or a co-worker throws you under the bus. The old you fires off a reply in 10 minutes, defensive, a little heated, maybe professional on the surface, but you can feel the energy in it. The new you closes the email, goes for a walk, gets a coffee, thinks about it for a few hours, maybe sleeps on it, and then writes back with clarity and zero emotion. The response you write from that calm place will always be better than the one you write when you are fired up, and people will notice. They will wonder, how do they do that? How are they always so calm? And that admiration, that wondering, that is respect building in real time. Why emotional? Control is rare. Here is why this matters so much right now. Emotional regulation is one of the rarest things in our society today. Social media is designed to make you react, to make you feel something big as fast as possible. The news is designed to trigger you, to make you anxious, to make you angry, to keep you watching. Your phone, the apps on it, all of it is built to steal your attention and hijack your emotions. So when you have the ability to just not react, when you can sit with something and respond from a place of peace instead of panic, you are instantly different from most people, and different when it comes from a place of strength always gets respect. Habit number: learn to say no without guilt. Okay, so this one is going to sting. A little for some of y'all, but hear me out. Most people cannot say no, like genuinely cannot say it without feeling terrible about it. They say, oh, I am so sorry, I would love to, but I just, and then they make up some excuse, or worse, they say, yes, when everything inside them is screaming no, and then they show up half-present, resentful, counting down the minutes, and somehow you think people do not notice that. They notice nothing destroys respect faster than being a yes person who clearly does not want to be there, because when you always say yes, people know they own you, and nobody truly respects what they own. Now here is what I want you to understand. Saying no is not mean. It is not selfish. It is not rude. It is honest, and in a world full of people who say yes and mean no, an honest no is incredibly refreshing. It actually builds trust, because people know when you say yes, you actually mean it. The Stoic view on saying no, Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Every time you say yes to something you do not want, you are letting outside events control your mind. You are letting someone else write your schedule, your life, your time. Every time you say no from a place of clarity, you are exercising control over your own existence. And that self-possession, that sense that you own your own time, is magnetic. People are drawn to it because most of them feel like they do not own their lives. They feel pulled in 1,000 directions, and they see you turning things down with zero guilt, and they think, man, I wish I could do that. That is respect mixed with a little envy, and both of them are telling you that you are doing something right. How to say no without burning bridges. Now I know what you are thinking. But what if saying no hurts my relationships or my career or my reputation? Valid concern. So let me walk you through it. First, you do not owe anyone a long explanation. This is the mistake most people make. They say no, and then panic and over-explain, and apologize 3 times and basically talk themselves out of the no. Just say, hey, that does not work for me right now. Or I appreciate the ask, but I am going to have to pass clean. Direct no drama. Second, when you say no consistently to the wrong things, you automatically have more to give to the right things. The people who matter will respect that you have limits, because they have limits too. The people who get mad when you say no were never really respecting you to begin with. They were just using your yes. Think about that one real slow. Habit number 4. Become someone people cannot fully figure out. Let me tell you something. Predictability kills respect. When people can fully predict you, when they know exactly how you will react, exactly what you will say, exactly how you spend your time, they stop paying attention. It is like a movie you have seen 100 times. You already know how it ends, so you stop watching closely. But when there is something about you that they cannot and quite figure out, they lean in, they wonder, they stay curious, they pay attention. This is not about being fake or mysterious for the sake of it. It is about having depth, having layers that most people never see coming. The person who surprises people. Think about someone you know who has surprised you in a good way. Maybe it was a quiet person who stood up in a meeting and said something that blew everyone away, or someone who seemed one-dimensional, and then you found out they speak 3 languages. Or they built something incredible, or they have this whole life outside of work that nobody knew about. That surprise, that depth, that I thought I had them figured out moment. That is what makes people suddenly lock in and start paying attention differently. The Stoics called this living with intention, not performance. You are not trying to seem interesting. You are genuinely investing in yourself, in your growth, in your skills, in your mind, and as a result, you keep becoming more than people expected. The quiet person who commands the room. There is a type of person that I want you to think about. They do not talk the most at a dinner table. But when they do say something, everyone stops. They do not post every day on social media. But when they do, people actually pay attention. They are not always at every hangout, but when they show up, it feels like an event that is not manipulation, that is just what happens when you have substance, and you protect it by not giving it all away at once. You do not have to shrink yourself to be more available, you just have to be genuinely full as a person, and trust that the people who are supposed to see it will see it. Habit number 5. Know your worth before anyone else does. I want to tell you a story that might sound familiar. There was a guy, let us call him Marcus, not the emperor, just a regular dude working a mid-level job at a marketing company in Chicago. Marcus was the kind of guy who stayed late every night, volunteered for every project, never said no, always available on Slack texting back at midnight, showing up early doing extra credit. Nobody asked for. He thought, if I just work hard enough and make myself indispensable, they will recognize me, they will promote me, they will see what I bring. 3 years went by and the promotions kept going to other people. People who were not even working as hard as him. People who came in at 9, left at 5, said, I cannot take that on right now, sometimes in front of the whole team, and Marcus could not figure it out. So one day he sat down with a mentor, an older guy who had been in corporate for 30 years, and the mentor said something that changed his entire life. He said, Marcus, they do not promote the person who makes themselves available for everything. They promote the person who makes them feel like they might lose them, see. The other people getting promoted were not doing less. They just understood their own value, and they let other people feel that value by not making themselves endlessly accessible. They said no sometimes because they had standards for what they spent their energy on. They left at 5 because they respected their own time, and that made others respect it. 2. They were not disposable, and they signaled that through their behavior. Every single day, Marcus took that in and made one decision. He was going to start acting like someone who had options, because he did. He just had not been acting like it that stopped staying late for free. He started saying, I need to finish what I am already working on before I take anything new on. He started having opinions in meetings, real ones, even if they pushed back on the boss a little. Within 6 months, he got the promotion, not because he worked harder, but because people started seeing him differently. They started thinking, we need to take care of Marcus before someone else does. That is what knowing your worth does. It does not make you arrogant. It makes you someone people feel the risk of losing. What the Stoics say about self-worth, Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And I want to flip that for our context today, self. Respect consists not in needing others to validate you, but in already knowing who you are. When you walk into a room already, knowing your value, you do not need anyone to tell you. And paradoxically, that is exactly when they start telling you. Needy energy repels people. Grounded energy draws them in. Be so settled in who you are that validation from others is nice, but not necessary. That settledness is what people cannot control, and therefore cannot help but respect. Habit number 6. Use silence like a weapon. This might be the most underrated thing I talk about today, silence. Most people are terrified of silence in conversation, in conflict, in relationships. When there is a pause, they fill it. They keep talking, they over-explain. They say things they did not mean to say, just to end the discomfort. But here is what silence actually communicates. I am not anxious. Here I do not need to fill this space. I am comfortable with myself, and I will speak when I have something worth saying that is powerful. Think about the most respected people you have ever encountered in real life. Maybe a great teacher, a mentor, a leader, someone who walked into a room and the energy changed. I guarantee you they were not the loudest person there. They probably spoke less than most. But when they did speak, everyone listened, because they had trained the room through consistent silence and observation to understand that when they open their mouth it counts. Silence in arguments and conflict. Here is where this gets really practical. You are in an argument. Someone is coming at you, raising their voice, saying things to provoke. You just stop. You do not yell back. You do not get emotional. You do not try to win the moment. You just look at them calm as still water and either say nothing or say one simple thing quietly. And then you wait. The person who is escalating suddenly has nothing to bounce off of it, is like throwing a punch into still air. And in that moment, even in their anger, something in them recognizes that you have something they do not: control. And control is always more powerful than chaos, silence on social. Let me bring this to the modern world, because this applies to your online presence too. People who post constantly, who share every opinion, every meal, every thought, every feeling. They feel very accessible, very known, very familiar, and familiar does not spark mystery. And mystery is part of respect, but the person who posts occasionally, but every time they do it, actually says something or shows something. Real. People are more interested in them. They engage more. They wonder what they are. Up to they look forward to when they show up. You do not have to disappear. You just have to be intentional about what you put out there and what you keep for yourself. Privacy is not hiding. Privacy is power. Habit number 7. Have a life that does not need anyone's approval. We made it to the last one, and this one ties everything together. The person who commands the most respect is the person whose life is full without needing you in it. That sounds harsh, but stay with me. It is not that they do not want connection. It is not that they do not love people. It is that they have built something for themselves, a purpose, a mission, a daily practice, a set of values that they live by, regardless of whether anyone is watching. They wake up with somewhere to go, something to build, something to protect, something to become. And that fullness, that sense of a person who is going somewhere with or without you, is deeply attractive to every kind of human relationship. Romantic, professional, social, all of it. The person who does not need validation. Here is how you know you are on the right track. When you stop checking how many likes your post got 5 minutes after you put it up. When you stop replaying a conversation, wondering if you said the right thing. When you stop needing someone to confirm your decision before you move forward. When you do something good and you do not feel the need to tell anyone about it. That is when you have arrived at a place of real self-possession, and that place radiates outward. People can feel when someone is anchored in themselves and they are drawn to it, not because you are showing off, but because most people feel untethered. Most people are looking for approval from their boss, their parents, their followers, their partner, and then they meet someone who just does not need it, and they think, how do they do that? And they want to be around that person because they hope some of it will rub off on them. Build the life first here is the practical takeaway for this last habit stop, waiting to build your life. After you get the relationship, after you get the job, after things settle down, build it now with what you have, where you are. Read the books, hit the gym, start the project. Learn the skill, take the trip, pursue the thing. Not so you can post about it, not so people will think you are interesting, but because a full life is its own reward. And the side effect is that you become genuinely interesting, genuinely grounded, genuinely respected, because you are not performing a life, you are actually living one. Now listen attentively. Let me bring it all home for you. Habit 1, stop being endlessly available. Your time is yours, act like it. Habit 2, master the pause. Do not react to everything. Let the gap between stimulus and response become your superpower. Habit 3, learn to say no without guilt and without a 3-paragraph explanation. A clean no is more respectable than a resentful yes. Habit 4, develop depth. Become someone people cannot fully figure out, not because you are hiding, but because you keep growing. Habit 5, know your worth before anyone else does. Walk into rooms like someone who has options, because you do. Habit 6, use silence. Let your stillness Speak louder than other people's noise in conversation, in conflict in your online presence. Habit 7. Build a life that does not need anyone's approval. Be someone who is going somewhere with or without an audience. The Stoic thread through all of it, what ties all of these together, is one Stoic idea. You cannot control the external world. You can only control yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your values, your choices. And when you focus all your energy on what you can control, you stop chasing approval. You stop being available for everything. You stop reacting to everything. You stop needing to explain yourself, and you start living from the inside out, instead of the outside in. That shift from living for external validation to living from internal values, that is what makes you uncontrollable, and that is exactly what makes people respect you, not because you are trying to be respected, but because you have become someone who is genuinely worth respecting. So let me bring this home. Everything we talked about today is not about games. It is not about manipulation. It is not about being cold or distant or treating people badly. It is about one thing: valuing yourself enough to live by your own standards, your own schedule, your own values. When you do that, you naturally become less predictable, less available, less reactive. And the world, which is used to people who are always chasing approval, sees someone different, and different, when it comes from a place of genuine strength, always gets respected. The Stoics figured this out thousands of years ago, long before social media, long before corporate culture, long before the need for external validation became a global epidemic. They figured out that the free person is not the one without chains, but the one who does not need anyone to tell them who they are. Be that person. All right, why, all that is a wrap on today's video. If something hit different for you today, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. Tell me which of the 7 habits you are going to start working on first. And if you know somebody who needs to hear this, share this video with them. Real talk. It might change how they carry themselves. Hit that subscribe button if you want more content like this. We go deep into Stoicism and how these ancient ideas apply to your actual life in today's world. Until next time, stay grounded, stay uncontrollable.